Well, let's head to South Africa now. A lot of news from there. One of the biggest news is in a couple of weeks, BRICS will be holding there. And we do know the threat it brought to the economy some months ago when it was first announced and how the rand dropped. But Matt Kindiger is helping us bring a closer look to the outlook, economic outlook of South Africa. And Matt joins us from London. Good afternoon, Matt. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Great. So I think it's time for another round of interest rate hikes. We've heard of Angola. They're expected to hike by a major percentage. Nigeria is also holding its meeting. We don't know, but we know the U.S. is, I mean, there's a tapering of inflation right there. Let's look at South Africa. Do you expect interest rates to continue to be hiked in South Africa?
So as we know, the South African Reserve Bank Monetary Policy Committee meets next week, and our view is that interest rates or a hike in interest rates are a little bit less likely next week than we've seen in previous MPC meetings. So if we do see a hike, it's likely to be very small, but our base case view is that there's unlikely to be a hike next week, and this is for a number of reasons. So we have seen inflation fall very sharply in South Africa over recent months. So the latest inflation reading was 6.3% in May, and this is the lowest since April 2022. And this is very close to the central bank's upper target limit of 6%. And we've also seen the rand regain a lot of ground after reaching record lows against the dollar in May this year. So certainly we expect the South African Reserve Bank to pause hikes or soften hikes for the time being. However, when we look to Q4 this year, and into Q1 2024, we do expect there to be several additional interest rate hikes. And this is because we are going to see the rand lose value again. And this is also going to complement a rise in inflation. We are also expecting to see the US Fed raise interest rates at least once more before the end of the year. And this will put pressure on emerging market currencies, including South Africa. So certainly, although in the short term, we don't expect to see more interest rate hikes in South Africa, towards the end of this year and the beginning of next year, interest rate hikes are once again going to become a bit more likely.
So talk about currency. Where do you see the rand heading? We know that investor sentiments really sent it, to the negative side some weeks ago. Where is it heading soon?
Yeah, so the rand has been really interesting. It's gone up and down quite a lot. It has had a bit of a reprieve over the last couple of months after reaching a record low in May. Our view is that after stabilizing, the rand is likely to lose value again towards the end of this year and exhibit quite a lot of volatility. And there are a number of reasons for this. The first is that we are expecting load shedding, power shortages in South Africa to get worse again. They have improved in recent weeks, and this has given investors some confidence. But actually, this is not sustainable. Eskom is really in a downward spiral, and we do expect to see power shortages get worse. We are also expecting to see the economy post a small contraction at some point this year, and this will again undermine investor sentiment there. And there is some concern about South Africa's relationship with Russia, obviously, and there's a huge amount of uncertainty there. That's in the next couple of months. But when we look towards 2024, so the closer we get towards the election, the more likely it is that investors will wake up to the fact that South Africa will have a coalition government, or the ANC is unlikely to secure more than 50% of the vote in the election. And this will cause quite considerable investor anxiety because South Africa will head into uncharted political territory. So we would expect for sure the rand to be, beyond 21 per dollar at the start of 2024 and perhaps lose a bit more value afterwards.
Sounds like a reduction in the growth outlook for the country.
That's right. Yeah. So our view actually is that we are now expecting South Africa to post a very small recession. So a few months ago, we were forecasting growth of about 0.6% this year, which is not great, but it's still growth. Whereas today, we're now forecasting a small contraction of 0.2% this year. So we are expecting the economy to contract, perhaps in Q2, Q3, or Q4, or maybe all of those quarters. And this is really a reflection of the severity of load shedding, a very weak downbeat sentiment, very weak public finances. So the government, struggling to raise investment and spend. Consumer spending is very weak. Retail sales are way below where they were 2 years ago. And so we are seeing investors hold back. The public sector really struggled to stimulate growth. and load shedding really taking a very significant toll on manufacturing and heavy industry in South Africa. So we do expect 2023 to be one of the worst years in terms of growth for South Africa, if you exclude COVID-19 in 2020 since at least 2009. So certainly quite a downbeat view for South Africa. However, 2024 could be a little bit better, especially if there's a bit of clarity over who will be in government next year, and also if load shedding, power shortages do begin to improve slightly next year. So a downbeat growth view for this year with a slight improvement next year.
Sounds like South Africans will have to tighten their belt a whole lot, as we get close to the elections and the end of the year. But thank you so much, Matt Kindiga, practice leader, Sub-Saharan Africa for Front of You. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.